Listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Around our area, a weekly look at community newspapers from around Western New York now continues. Your reader for this hour is Debbie. Our first newspaper comes from Orchard Park Bee. Town Board considers new stadium zoning changes by Emma McElligott. The Orchard Park Town Board met on Wednesday, December 17th, to discuss zoning changes, road safety, town projects, and other community updates. The board began the meeting with a public hearing on a proposed zoning change that would create a new stadium mixed-use zone covering about 282 acres, currently zoned DR2, R3, and R4. Residents were invited to share their thoughts on the proposal. Ed Flynn, Vice President and Director of Planning at LaBella Associates, spoke about the town of Orchard Park Stadium area comprehensive development study. He explained that the zoning changes are being implemented in phases. When we met with the board 3 or 4 months ago, the SMU zone was much larger, Flynn said. Now that it's been reduced, it essentially runs from Southwestern Boulevard to the Hamburg Town line. Mixed-use development is encouraged for the area, especially with first-floor commercial space and possible residential, office, or additional commercial uses on upper floors. Flynn noted that the zoning changes allow for higher densities and improved walkability in commercial areas. The minimum lot size has been reduced from a full acre to half an acre. Front setbacks are now 40 feet instead of 50, and building coverage can go up to 60% rather than 40%, he said. He also emphasized that the updates include design standards for new buildings and expansions over 25% of existing structures, ensuring that developments are functional and visually appealing. These standards do not apply to single-family, two-family, or townhouse developments. Mark Ebling, owner of Danny's South Restaurant at 4300 Abbott Road, spoke in favor of the proposal. My family's been down here 29 years now, and we're totally for this going on. But I want to say that we need a hotel in this area, he said. These people are coming into town, and if they are kept by the stadium, they will stay by the stadium. He also discussed concerns about the surrounding area. We need safe sidewalks and lighting, he said. People are walking up and down the streets, and when we have to leave, we have nowhere to go. In opposition, Mark Lester, who owns nearly 6 acres of land just outside the proposed SMU district, said he would like to see Big Tree Road and the intersection of Abbott Road developed in a way that expands on the existing area. The owner of Danny's said we don't have enough commercial activity or development in the area to even support the existing community that resides there, he said. Also speaking in opposition were Carlin and Cheryl Cardici, who own 3.5 acres of commercial property nearest the proposed zone. Carlin said the construction of the new stadium has forced them to temporarily close their business. In the future, we would like to do something beautiful on that 3.5 acres, he said. The problem with the stadium is the economics of it. Carlin added that the current 35-foot height limit would only allow for a 2-story building, limiting the property's potential. It makes it a lower quality property when it could be a Hilton or a Marriott, he said. I would like the zoning to allow a 4-story building. After the public hearing, Council Member Joseph Liberty spoke on behalf of the board, noting key differences between the current DR2 zoning and the proposed SMU zone. The SMU allows building heights of 35 feet, which is about a 2.5-story building versus a 4-story, 62-foot high building under the previous plan, he said. He said a threat assessment conducted around the stadium prompted the height adjustment for safety reasons. This isn't meant to hinder development, he said. We also want to see hotels, restaurants, and boutique shops. Our goal is to create a thriving and safe area with sidewalks, lighting, and a bike path. Board members then discussed ongoing projects and proposals, including a vote on a special permit for a legal cannabis dispensary on Southwestern Boulevard and approval of a change order for the Berg Road sump pump station replacement project. Doing new business, the board accepted a donation to purchase a new elliptical machine for the Community Activity Center, authorized a promotion in the building department, and approved requests to lower speed limits on several local roads, including Big Tree Road, Southwestern Boulevard, and Abbott Road. Excuse me. The board also approved the purchase of a new dump truck, awarding a drainage improvement contract at Brush Mountain softball fields, and moved forward with plans for the Dennis Road Bridge replacement project. Other actions included signing a New York State Department of Transportation utility agreement for intersection improvements, adopting the non-union salary schedule, issuing a building permit for a new awning on Southwestern Boulevard, and scheduling a public hearing in January for a conservation easement renewal on Elliott Road. Our next article, new rules expand opportunities for aspiring New York State Park Police officers. New guidelines and requirements are expanding opportunities for applicants to join a new class of park police officers at New York State Office of Park Recreations and Historic Preservation, the state parks. Individuals interested in protecting visitors to the state park system can submit their applications until Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. With updated guidelines and requirements, we are proud to welcome a new generation of park police candidates, said Kathy Moser, the state parks acting commissioner. Our park police officers play a vital role in protecting people, places, and experiences that make our state park system so special. As visitation continues to grow, we are seeking dedicated individuals who are committed to public service and to ensuring our parks remain safe and welcoming for everyone. Candidates must be at least 20 years old and no older than 43 as of Thursday, October 1st, 2026. The previous maximum age was 35. OPRHP is looking for candidates with education and experience that include 60 college semester credit hours completed by June 30th, 2026, military service, or municipal police training. More details can be found at parks.ny.gov/about/parkpolice/parkpolice new applicants. State Parks maintains a welcoming environment and offers new recruits, hands-on fieldwork and classroom education in criminal procedure law, penal law, vehicle and traffic law, park and recreation law, and criminal investigations. Recruits receive training in firearms, first response, snowmobile operation, ATV operation, emergency vehicle operation, and a wide variety of other law enforcement-related topics and skills. Park police are relied upon to help people in need during extreme events across various park environments, which includes rushing waters, high peaks, and winding trails, said Michael Dodona, the park police chief. This is a challenging and rewarding career. Candidates will be joining a team of dedicated officers who provide a great public service to all the people of New York State. Park police officers are highly trained specialists dedicated to the New York State Park Police mission of pride, professionalism, respect, integrity, dedication, and excellence. They provide New York State residents and visitors with safe and enjoyable recreational experiences at state parks and historic sites. Our next article was written by Patrick Gallivan, the 60th District, New York State Senate. Albany's must prioritize affordability and safety in 2026. New Year's is a time many of us resolve to do better, improve our health, learn a new skill, or spend more time with our family. In that spirit, the state legislature should make 2026 the year New York becomes a better place to live, work, and raise a family by focusing on issues of affordability and public safety when the new legislative session begins on January 7th. New York continues to rank among the least affordable states in the nation, with an exorbitant cost of living driven by high taxes, rising healthcare costs, excessive government spending, skyrocketing energy costs, and unaffordable housing prices. The Senate and Assembly must work together to adopt policies and programs to address these issues for families and businesses alike. We can start by cutting both income and property taxes. One proposal worth considering would exempt income taxes on those making less than $250,000 phased in over 10 years. Another initiative would impose a 3-year freeze on property taxes. I also co-sponsored legislation that would eliminate the state income tax on tips and overtime. New York is also one of the most difficult states in which to conduct business because of high taxes and excessive regulations, which too often drive employers and workers elsewhere. According to the Tax Foundation's Business Climate Index, New York ranks 50th in the nation. We should be cutting taxes and reducing burdensome regulations to help retain existing businesses and to attract new ones. Energy costs are also adding to the affordability challenge facing New Yorkers. Since passage of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which I opposed, energy prices have increased more than 50% as utility companies raise rates to meet climate goals that many say are unachievable. New York needs an energy policy that is both reliable and affordable. We can start by repealing the All-Electric Buildings Act, which is currently on hold, and other Green New Deal policies that drive up utility costs. This legislature can also help New York families facing the high cost of housing and childcare by providing tax credits to first-time homebuyers and incentivizing employers to provide childcare for their workers. Albany must also take steps to make New York safer in 2026. We can keep violent criminals and repeat offenders off the streets by repealing reckless changes made in recent years to our bail, discovery, parole, and other criminal justice laws. Legislation that I co-sponsor would permit judges to consider a defendant's dangerousness when making bail decisions. We must also ensure that law enforcement agencies are fully funded and that officers have the resources needed to protect our communities. While the New York presents many challenges, we must recognize we can make life better for New York residents and businesses. I look forward to working with my Senate and Assembly colleagues and others in state government on these opportunities. I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year. Our next article in the Orchard Park Bee comes from Lisa Chimera, who is a Deputy Erie County Executive. Winter weather is here. Make sure you and your household are prepared. 2025 has brought an early and active start to the winter season across Erie County with significant snowfall brought on by multiple lake effect snow systems. Winter weather is a fact of life in Western New York, but it is imperative for individuals and families to be prepared. New for this year, Erie County has rolled out a new winter weather storm scale, ECWSS website. This site is now live and provides detailed maps including expected snow and conditions on the New York State Thruway and impact on specific populations. The maps use real-time data from the New York Weather Service and are updated hourly. Bookmark the website now so you're prepared during winter weather. The ECWSS is an important tool, but not the only one you need to prepare for winter storms. Sign up for real-time emergency and weather alerts. Text the word Erie or any other county in New York to 333-111. This is a free service from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. Download the free Ready Erie Preparedness app. Prepare your vehicle. Include jumper cables, flares, reflective triangles, ice scraper, way to charge your cell phone, devices, blanket, mat, cat litter, or sand. Be sure to keep your gas tank full when winter weather is expected. A full tank will help keep your fuel line from freezing. Prepare your home. Stock up with extra water, food, ways to charge your cell phone, battery, a battery-operated radio, and emergency medical supplies. Don't forget about needs specific to your household. This can include games to keep kids occupied during a power outage or any extra medications you take regularly. Check in on neighbors, friends, and family, household with older adults, young children, people with disabilities, or serious medical conditions. They may have additional needs. The New York State DHSES also offers Citizen Preparedness Corps training. Led by emergency response personnel, participants learn the basics of how to respond to a natural or human-made disaster. A backpack with preparedness tools is also provided. One per family. Registration is required. Courses will be held in Erie County on the dates below: January 6th, January 8th, January 9th, January 9th at Schiller Park, January 9th at the Buffalo Neighborhood Federation, January 26th at the Amherst Center for Senior Citizens. For a full list of these courses, check www.Prepare New York. You are listening to Around Our Area on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 2:15. We will now read from the East Aurora Bee. Parkdale welcomes longtime educator as their new assistant principal, by Justin Sullivan. East Aurora's Parkdale Elementary School has appointed longtime educator and school leader Stacy Koch as its new assistant principal. Koch has worked in the district since 2006 and said she was drawn to Parkdale by its reputation and people. She described the school as one with a strong tradition of excellence and said she looks forward to supporting existing initiatives while contributing new perspectives. Her career began at Erie 2 BOCES, where she taught in a special education program. Koch joined the East Aurora School District as a co-teacher for 7th grade English Language Arts, Math, and Science before moving to the elementary level. As a special education teacher, she worked with students in kindergarten through 4th grade, later returning to the middle school. At the East Aurora Middle School, she served as advisor to the student council, led special ed department, and was a member of the school's restorative practices team. The elementary school, where she will be working, currently serves more than 700 local children in grades pre-K through 4th grade. Our next article, Ford Buffalo Stamping Plant commits $150,000 to expand STEM programs at the local Boys and Girls Clubs. A $150,000 investment from the Ford Buffalo Stamping Plant is opening new doors for youth at the Boys and Girls Club in East Aurora and Elma, Marilla, and Wales, EMW, expanding hands-on STEM learning and workforce readiness programs that connect students to future careers in manufacturing and skilled trades. The funding from the motor company's manufacturer will support the launch of new STEM and workforce labs at the local clubs, giving young people access to robotics, engineering, design, and green technology projects that mirror real-world careers. The initiative is part of the Ford's Future Workforce Initiative and is expected to impact thousands of youth served annually across Western New York. Additional recipients include the Buffalo, Depew Lancaster, Eden Lakeshore, North Towns, and Orchard Park clubs. At the club level, the investment translates into new equipment, technology, and project-based materials that allow students to learn by doing. Programs will be tailored to local interests and strengths, ranging from robotic builds and engineering challenges to sustainability-focused design projects, while also offering mentorship opportunities with Ford professionals. This investment isn't just about equipment, it's about belief, said Tracy Bradshaw, Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Boys and Girls Clubs Collaborative of Western New York, which is now headquartered in the Boys and Girls Club of East Aurora space on Pine Street. These STEM and workforce labs will help youth see themselves as designers, builders, and problem solvers, and understanding that their ideas and futures matter. STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math education, offers benefits like enhanced critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving skills, preparing individuals for high-demand, higher-paying careers in a tech-driven world through hands-on, real-world application, fostering innovation, resilience, and digital literacy essential for future success. Brian Kendig, plant manager of the Ford Buffalo Stamping Plant, said early exposure to hands-on learning is critical as industries evolve. Advanced technology and innovation are shaping the future of manufacturing, Kendig said. By investing in these clubs, We're helping young people explore robotics and engineering in ways that can spark lifelong interests and lead to meaningful careers. Local club leaders said the new labs will strengthen their ability to prepare students for careers while reinforcing the club's role as safe, supportive spaces for learning and growth. The Boys and Girls Club Collaborative of Western New York supports 12 independent clubs serving nearly 13,000 youth annually, providing out-of-school programming in education, STEM, workforce readiness, leadership, mental health, the arts, and recreation. Moving along, our next article. Hochul to sign the New York Medical Aid and Dying Act legalizing assisted suicide. Governor Kathy Hochul has reached an agreement with state lawmakers to pass New York's Medical Aid and Dying Act, clearing the way for the legislation to be signed into law early next year. The measure would allow terminally ill New Yorkers with a prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request medication to end their lives, provided that they meet strict eligibility requirements and safeguards. Hochul said amendments negotiated with the legislature strengthen protections to ensure that the decision is voluntary and informed. Under the agreement, the legislation includes a mandatory 5-day waiting period between when the medication is prescribed and when it may be used, an audio or video recorded or a request from the patient, and in-person evaluations by physicians. A mental health assessment would also be required to confirm the patient's decision-making capacity. The law would only apply to New York residents and would allow healthcare providers and religiously affiliated institutions to opt out of participation. Violations of the law's requirements would be considered professional misconduct. Hochul said the legislation balances compassion for terminally ill patients with safeguards to prevent abuse. The law is expected to take effect 6 months after it is signed, allowing time for training and implementation. New York has long been a beacon of freedom, and now it is time that we extend that freedom to terminally ill New Yorkers who want the right to die comfortably on their own terms, said Governor Hochul. My mother died of ALS, and I am all too familiar with the pain of seeing someone you love suffer, and someone you love suffer and being powerless to stop it. Although this was an incredibly difficult decision, I ultimately determined that with the additional guardrails agreed upon with the legislature, this bill would allow New Yorkers to suffer less, to shorten not their lives, but their deaths. If enacted, New York would join a growing number of states that permit medical aid in dying under defined circumstances. The proposal has drawn both strong support from patient advocacy groups and opposition from some religious and disability rights organizations. This law will represent the culmination of more than 10 years of determined, consistent effort by hundreds, no, thousands of New Yorkers who advocated for this law. I've had and continue to have the honor of walking alongside New Yorkers who face terminal diagnoses with bravery and love, people who open their homes, their hearts, and often their final months to this movement. Senior Campaign Director for Compassion and Choices, New York, New Jersey, Corinne Carey said, "Many did not live to see this day. We carry the memory of 29 advocates we lost along the way whose suffering might have been eased had this option been available." Carey added, "This law is about compassion, family love, and respect for bodily autonomy. New Yorkers deserve nothing less." Moving on, Erie County receives a grant to start upgrading Elma's sewer system, boosts local economic development. Erie County will receive $500,000 in state funding to support infrastructure planning aimed at boosting future economic development in the town of Elma, Governor Kathy Hochul announced last Monday. The funding is part of more than $43 million awarded statewide through the focused attraction of shovel-ready tracks, Shovel-Ready Tracks New York, or FAST New York program, which helps communities prepare sites for large-scale commercial and industrial development. Erie County's grant will be used for pre-development engineering work related to sewer and wastewater system upgrades along the Elma corridor. The improvements are intended to help make the area shovel-ready for future employers, particularly in advanced manufacturing and other high-growth industries. Hochul said the Fast New York program is designed to strengthen upstate New York's competitiveness by ensuring communities have the infrastructure needed to attract major private investment and create good-paying jobs. The Erie County Award is one of the 5 Fast New York grants announced across upstate New York. While some grants fund full infrastructure construction, the Erie County allocation focuses on early-stage planning and engineering, a key step towards long-term development. Since the program's launch, New York has awarded hundreds of millions of dollars through Fast New York to prepare individual sites statewide. Hochul has proposed additional funding in the upcoming state budget to expand the program and continue supporting economic growth in regions like Western New York. Our next article, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library expands to Erie County. Just over 1 year after launching Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in 3 initial zip codes, the program is now available in every zip code in Erie County, marking a historic expansion of access to free early childhood literacy resources for families across Western New York. New York State Assemblyman Member John Rivera made the announcement at the Williamsville Branch Library, joined by representatives from the United Way of Buffalo in Erie County and from the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library on December 16th. When I first secured state funding to bring Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to Western New York, it was always my hope that one day every child in Erie County would be eligible to receive free books in their earliest, most formative years, Rivera said. To see this program expand countrywide in just over a year and to know that more than 20,000 books have already landed in the hands of local children is extraordinary. This is how we build a lifelong love of learning, of reading, and this is how we strengthen the opportunity for an entire generation. Since its launch in September 2024, the partnership between the United Way of Buffalo and Erie County and Dolly Parton's Imagination Library has delivered more than 20,000 free, high-quality books directly to the homes of Western New York children. The overwhelming response from families, educators, and community leaders has propelled the rapid growth of the program, achieving what Assemblymember Rivera called a long-held goal for our community. United Way of Buffalo and Erie County, which oversees local implementation, credited the expansion to strong enrollment numbers, unanimous community support, and the Assembly members' continued advocacy for early literacy programs. Dolly Parton's Imagination Library mails a free, age-appropriate book each month to enrolled children from birth to age 5. What began in 1995 as an effort to support children in Dolly Parton's home community in East Tennessee has grown into one of the most impactful early childhood literacy initiatives in the world. Now, its reach extends to every neighborhood and child in Erie County, and the timing of the program's expansion could not be more pertinent. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library inspires a love of reading from birth, says Christy Dougherty, Amherst Public Library Director. It is my hope that the books received will lead to increased family engagement and library visits to discover even more free books to read. Librarians and other staff can also provide access to resources for daily literacy building activities. An analysis of New York State Education Department data revealed that only 39% of 3rd through 5th graders in Western New York's 99 school districts scored at grade level on recent ELA tests, English Language Arts, while 31% of students lack even basic reading and writing skills. Economically disadvantaged students were found to be more likely than wealthier students, 42 versus 17%, to score at the lowest range on tests, indicating that they lack the basic skills needed to read and write at grade level. The Imagination Library has demonstrated success in helping to improve these numbers. A 2015 study conducted by professors at Lemoyne College found that children enrolled in Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in the city of Syracuse were significantly better prepared to enter kindergarten than their peers who had not participated in it. Among children who were consistently enrolled in the program, 61.1% were assessed as ready for kindergarten based on their performance on the test, compared to 47.4% of the children who did not take part in the program. With every zip code now included, families throughout Erie County can sign up their children to begin receiving monthly books at no cost, helping build home libraries and strengthen school readiness. Research consistently shows that children exposed to books and regular reading from birth develop stronger language skills, improved early literacy, and greater long-term academic success. As a frontline organization committed to literacy, we're thrilled to partner with Assemblyman Rivera and the United Way of Buffalo to expand Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. Buffalo and Erie County Public Library Director Dorinda Darden said, "Getting books into the hands of every child in Erie County takes the whole community working together, and this program has a proven track record of making that a reality for children, no matter their zip code or their means." You're listening to Around Our Area on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 2:30. Moving on to the West Seneca Bee. Residents rail on water pressure by Eric Kepler. West Seneca Town Engineer Joseph Foote gave a presentation at Monday's town board meeting updating lawmakers on options for dealing with the low water pressure that has plagued portions of the town along its eastern border, although some of the residents on hand were not impressed. "I reviewed the low-pressure concerns reported by several residents on Cedar Ridge Drive," Foote said in his report. "This area is located within the town's least managed area of the water system, where the facilities are owned by the town but operated by the Erie County Water Authority. ECWA has performed pressure measurements, and they range between approximately 35 and 40 psi at the southern end of the street. A normal home water pressure is generally between 40 and 80 psi, pounds per square inch, with an ideal sweet spot around 50 to 60 psi, balancing good flow with appliance and pipe health. Pressure below 40 psi is considered low, although it's within the ECWA's acceptable range. Complicating the issue is the difference in elevation over the length of the street, which means that what may be good for some is not good for all. Specifically, the elevation on the south end of Cedar Street is 724 feet, and it's 86 feet lower at the other end. If we raise the pressure at the elevated end of the street by 30 psi, the pressure at the lower end will also be elevated. So we have to be careful that we're not causing more damage by raising the pressure where it's not needed," Foote said. Foote floated 3 options to the town board. The first option would be to connect Cedar Ridge Drive to the Elma pressure zone on the other side of Transit Road. At a cost of several $1 million, this option presents substantial system-wide impacts and is not recommended without major system reconfiguration, Foote said. The second option would be to install a dedicated booster pump station at the north end of Cedar Ridge Drive. This option would cost at least $500,000, plus the cost of property acquisition for the station. Operational costs would be high and require long-term maintenance. Foote recommended the third option, which calls for residents to install their own individual booster pump systems, which would have the least impact on the town's water system. However, this would cost residents between $3,000 and $6,000 between the cost of the pump and the installation. This installation also would not be eligible for any kind of subsidies or tax breaks, leaving residents to foot the bill in its entirety. Residents, predictably, were not thrilled. West Seneca has gone through these growth spurts, but they don't do their due diligence to see the impacts of these growths, said Cedar Ridge resident Gary Bensman, who's also an electrical engineer. "We shouldn't have to do this. We never had this problem before. Now you're telling us that it's our fault and that we need to install pumps on our houses." Bensman pointed to the addition of nearby car washes, automobile dealerships, and a 55-unit apartment complex as dramatically taxing not just the water infrastructure, but the electrical as well. "Over the last 10 years, we've been seeing a constant degradation of water pressure," Bensman said. "It's the infrastructure. It's not fair to us that we're being penalized for this." Cedar Ridge resident James Raymond warned that the wear on the infrastructure will only get worse, especially if the town board approves the recent request from Clocks Grove Management to add short-term rental units on its property. Clocks is 0.4 miles from Cedar Ridge. What will that do to the PSI, Raymond said. These are questions you should be asking ahead of every project so that 2 years later, you're not saying, here's a $3,000 bill. Our next article let's see. Is from Lindsay Larigo, who is the 10th District Erie County Legislator. We cannot afford to ignore the fiscal realities. Erie County residents have been told to brace for a bleak fiscal future. The county executive has warned of dead flowers and arsenic. The county controller has described things as getting doomier and gloomier. Those are dramatic words, but leadership is not about dramatic warnings. Leadership is about making hard decisions and offering real solutions. Unfortunately, the 2026 Erie County budget does not do that. Despite all the dire rhetoric, the county executive proposed a budget that raises the property tax levy by more than $5 million and continues expanding the size and cost of county government. We are repeatedly told to focus on the tax rate, but that misses the point. What actually matters to the taxpayers is the tax levy, the total amount of money the county collects. And under this administration, that number is higher than ever. A lower tax rate does not mean taxpayers are paying less. It simply reflects higher assessments. In real dollars, Erie County is collecting more of your money year after year. Since 2021, county spending has increased by more than $704 million. That level of growth would be concerning under any circumstances, but it is especially troubling in a county that is not growing in population. When spending explodes without population growth, the same residents are left carrying a heavier burden. Seniors on fixed incomes and working families feel that impact first. My Republican colleagues and I refuse to accept the idea that the only response to a looming fiscal problem is to talk about it while continuing business as usual. We put forward a comprehensive amendment package that actually addressed the concerns being raised. Our plan cut the tax levy by more than $12 million, reined in spending, imposed guardrails on overtime and travel, eliminated waste, and offered modest relief at the gas pump. That is what leadership looks like, acknowledging a problem and taking responsibility for fixing it. The majority had a choice. They could have supported a serious, responsible solution to the fiscal challenges they claim to be worried about. Instead, they rejected our amendments and advanced an amended budget that grows government, adds job, and includes bulk spending at a time when Erie County families cannot afford it. They chose political talking points over fiscal responsibility. We have seen where this path leads. Roughly 20 years ago, Erie County finances deteriorated to the point where libraries closed, parks shut down, and highway barns were locked. Those weren't abstract budget decisions. They were real consequences of leaders failing to act in time. Ignoring today's warning signs risks repeating history. There are long-term decisions at stake beyond the operating budget. Proceeds from the sale of the ECC South Campus belong to Erie County taxpayers and must be handled by the legislature, the county's fiscal authority. Redevelopment of that property, especially given its proximity to the new Buffalo Bills Stadium, must be done thoughtfully to avoid another generational mistake. While I will continue fighting for fiscal responsibility, I am grateful for the generosity of our community. Thank you to everyone who's supported my Neighbors Helping Neighbors donation drive and helped organizations like the Rural Outreach Center, West Seneca Community Family Pantry, Fish of East Aurora, the Trading Post in Springville, and Love Inc. serving families in need. As we head into the holidays, please check on your neighbors. If you need help with a county issue, contact my office at 716-858-8922. You can follow updates on Facebook. She wishes you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a healthy and prosperous New Year. Continuing on from West Seneca Bee, Gallivan co-sponsors adjustments to impaired driving laws. December is the National Drunk and Drugged Driving Prevention Month, and Senator Patrick Gallivan is observing this month a renewed call for action on legislation to modernize the New York State impaired driving laws. New York's existing laws dealing with impaired driving are out of date and do not adequately address the growing threat imposed by those who operate a vehicle while impaired by certain drugs, Gallivan said. We need to close the current loopholes that exist and ensure that law enforcement has the tools necessary to hold drug drivers accountable for their actions and better protect both motorists and pedestrians. The bill would provide an affirmative defense to driving under the influence in cases of allergic reactions or medical emergency. It would bring New York into alignment with 46 other states that do not use the list to determine substances that define impairment. In the West Seneca sports section, Gunnell scores the 100th career point as the Lady Warhawks hoop improved to 6-0. The West Seneca West girls basketball team put a stamp on its December schedule, pairing dominant team performance with a milestone moment for one of the program's most accomplished players. The Lady Warhawks remain unbeaten at 6-0 with decisive home victories over Jamestown and Williamsville South, winning 90-51 on Friday, December 19th, and 84-46 this weekend. The East boys hockey tied with Hamburg. The West Seneca East Trojans proved that they can go toe-to-toe with the area's elite on Friday night, skating to a hard-fought 3-3 tie against undefeated Hamburg at the Hamburg Town Ice Arena on December 19th. Also, the West boys hoop split at the Depew Holiday Tournament. The West Seneca West Warhawks put together a strong showing at the Depew Holiday Tournament this past weekend. West Seneca West cruised past host Depew with a 61-27 victory on Thursday, setting the tone early with a smothering defensive effort. The West Seneca, the boys bowling cruised past Frontier, and the girls fall short in twin matchup. The West Seneca boys and girls bowling teams faced off against Frontier on Thursday at the Town Edge bowling lanes. The boys' team improved to 3-1 on the season, thanks to a strong performance from both the A and B squads. They earned a convincing 5-2 victory, but the girls suffered a 5-2 loss. West boys hockey splits an upstate trip. The West Seneca West boys hockey team returned from a two-game trip to St. Lawrence, New York, with a split performance, falling 4-1 to Oswego on December 19th, but they bounced back with a 4-2 win over Salmon River on December 20th at the Tri-Town Arena. Under the senior news section in the West Seneca Bee, the West Seneca Senior Center is open from 9 to 3 Monday through Friday, with the office closed during lunch service. The front doors open at 8:50 a.m. The center is free to all West Seneca residents age 50 and up. Beginning January 2026, there will be a $35 annual membership fee to non-residents participating in senior center activities and programs. This fee helps support the programming, events, and services. Frozen to-go meals can be ordered by calling 716-675-9288. If you need meals delivered, call 716-858-8526 to speak to New York Connects or 716-822-2002 for Meals on Wheels. The West Seneca Senior Center is open to all Erie County residents ages 50 and plus. The SPCA serving Erie County has introduced Paws and Patriots, an all-new adoption promotion designed to honor and thank the region's veterans and active service members. This program is the SPCA's first year-round adoption promotion for veterans and active duty military members, offering 50% off adoption fees for all animals at the SPCA serving Erie County in West Seneca. Paws and Patriots applies to animals of all ages and breeds and species. The discount is available to veterans, active duty military members, and their spouses with valid military identification. If a service member is currently stationed outside New York State, their spouse may adopt under the program with a military spouse identification card. Paws and Patriots is available only at the SPCA's West Seneca location at 300 Harlem Road. To see the animals currently available for adoption, visit yourspca.org/adoptableanimals. For more information about this program, call 716-875-7360, extension 203. Governor Kathy Hochul announced key enhancements to the New York State Veterans Tuition Award that expounds access to college financial aid for a higher number of veterans. This expansion now allows veterans who served at least 4 years on active duty to qualify for full tuition awards, even if they did not serve in combat or a specific combat theater. These changes took place on July 1st, 2025. For more information or to apply, visit the VTA website. You are listening to Around Our Area on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 2:45. Our next set of articles come from the Hamburg Sun. Gas station and convenience store and 4 restaurants are proposed for Big Tree Road and Southwestern Boulevard parcel. Development hinges on receiving access onto Southwestern Boulevard. This article is written by Chris Graham. A potential development, including a gas station and convenience store and 4 restaurants, may be coming to the corner of Big Tree Road and Southwestern Boulevard in the town of Hamburg, but only if the developer is guaranteed access onto Southwestern Boulevard by the New York State Department of Transportation. Bryad Development, LLC, is seeking the rezoning of a 4.14-acre parcel from C1 to C2 to construct a small-scale travel center. Included in this development would be a Circle K gas station and convenience store, a Dunkin' Donuts, a Jimmy John's, a Buffalo Wild Wings, and 1 other yet-to-be-determined restaurant. 2 of the restaurants would have a drive-through, with each having over 10 cars able to fit in line. On the site, there would be 43 parking spaces, along with 14 spots for vehicles to fuel up with gas. The one major determination the project needs is if access will be allowed onto Southwestern Boulevard. James Tallarico, Senior Vice President of Restaurant and Retail Development for Bryad Development, said the company is currently in talks with the Department of Transportation, but has not heard anything yet regarding access. We know, based off prior precedents, that getting curb cuts onto Southwestern Boulevard onto the state highway system has been a difficult thing, says Josh Roberts, a planning consultant for Wendell. The applicant is aware of that. Town of Hamburg Planning Board member William Clark said the board has seen around a dozen projects looking to receive access onto Southwestern Boulevard, with none of those receiving a curb cut. Tallarico noted that if access onto Southwestern Boulevard is not granted by the DOT, the development will not be built. Should the development be built, it would be the third of its kind from Bryad Development in the state. Other early concerns from the board include traffic issues, the need to provide buffering to Burke Parkway, and the potential for environmental issues from the gas station. Rogers did note that there is a gas station across the street from the potential development. Tallarico told the board that the company will conduct a traffic study in the area. Rogers also said that the board should take into account the project's proximity to New Highmark Stadium. This isn't too far from where the built stadium is going to be. Obviously, there's going to be a stadium impact area district with a number of different uses around that stadium, Rogers said. One of the things to think about with the rezoning is what kind of uses we want, not only in this commercial corridor of Southwestern and Big Tree, but how does this project, if it were to go forward, how will it have synergy with the Bills Stadium, or will it have synergy with the Bills Stadium? In developing the project, Tallarico said they're not coming to Hamburg because of the new stadium. He said the potential move into the area has more to do with traffic counts and the demand being present. I don't want everybody to think that's the only reason we're coming here, that the Bills Stadium is just a mile down the road, Tallarico said. That's only 20 times max, maybe 30, if there are other venues that are going on. Board members also agreed that traffic from events at the stadium should not curb development. Based on the board's conversation and thoughts, Rogers was set to put together a draft recommendation report. The developer is set to return to discuss the project at the board's meeting on Wednesday, January 21st. Our next article, a town of Hamburg man charged with murder in the second degree in the death of his mother, by Chris Graham. A town of Hamburg man has been charged with murder in the second degree after police found his mother dead inside the family's residence on McKinley Parkway. At 8 a.m. on December 14th, Town of Hamburg police were called to a welfare check at 5044 McKinley Parkway. Police said James Jenny, age 33, a resident of the address, made the call to the department. Todd Earhart, a captain in the department, said when officers arrived on the scene, Jenny was immediately belligerent with them. It seemed when the officers got there he was in a volatile state, Earhart said. Officers began speaking with Jenny and calmed him down. Jenny invited the officers into the house where they found Loretta Jenny, age 71, dead inside the kitchen. Police believe that the murder happened between the late evening hours of December 13th into the morning of December 14th. Statements made by Jenny to officers indicated that he may be involved with the death of his mother. Subsequent investigation showed that Jenny was the only person involved in his mother's death, Earhart said. The medical examiner ruled the incident to be a homicide. The cause of death was penetration through the neck, Earhart said. At this point, police do not know what the murder weapon was, but believed it to be a sharp-edged instrument. We collaborated with the Erie County District Attorney's Office on December 14th and then came to an evidentiary determination where we explained the evidence that we had, and they agreed that he should be charged with murder in the second degree, the captain said. Officers did have previous interactions with Jenny, with Earhart saying that there were calls and arrests at that address. He added that the suspect has had a history with narcotics. There were arrests of Jenny's in 2016 and 2020 at the residence, both domestic violence incidences against his mother, authorities said. One was for harassment, while another was for strangulation. There was an order of protection that was involved for a couple of years that has since expired, Earhart said. Continuing the article. Jenny was arraigned on December 15th in Hamburg Town Court on the charge of murder in the second degree, a Class A felony. He pleaded not guilty. A felony hearing was slated for December 19th. He was held without bail. If convicted of the highest charge, Jenny faces a maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison. Anyone with additional information on the case can contact the Department's Detective Bureau at 716-648-5111, extension 2614. Our next article, Gallivan calls on the governor to veto legislation in order to preserve access to natural gas. State Senator Patrick Gallivan and members of the Senate Minority Conference have sent a letter to Governor Kathy Hochul urging her to veto legislation S. 8417, which would eliminate the 100-foot rule for natural gas hookups to buildings, including residential homes. The 100-foot rule requires utility companies to cover the cost of extending natural gas lines to new residential and business developments. Repealing this rule would mean that homeowners will have to pay the full material and installation costs for connecting to natural gas services, costs that can reach $14,000 per home. New Yorkers are already struggling with affordability issues, and this legislation will drive energy costs higher and limit access to natural gas, Gallivan said. Now is not the time to impose unrealistic mandates on residents and developers, which will also make home construction and home ownership more expensive. I urge the governor to veto this bill. Gallivan voted against the bill, which passed the Senate 34-25. The Assembly approved the legislation by a vote of 83-62. These concerns are compounded by recent warnings from the New York Independent System Operator, which has identified emerging grid reliability challenges as the state pushes towards a zero-emissions electric grid by 2040. This legislation would hasten electrification at this time when the grid is not prepared to meet increased demands, driving up electrical rates and putting additional strain on an already vulnerable system, the letter concludes. Our next article, Catholic Charities warns of immigration scammers. Catholic Charities of Buffalo has been made aware of immigration legal service scams that use the agency's name to victimize immigrants. These illegal scams are being conducted both locally and across the country, using both Catholic Charities USA and individual agency names. Scammers are claiming immigrants can enroll in legal programs by paying a fee, but these programs do not exist, and neither Catholic Charities of Buffalo nor Catholic Charities USA assist with bond payments. Catholic Charities will never request payments for any service via funds transfer systems such as Zelle or Venmo. Catholic Charities of Buffalo does provide immigration and refugee resettlement services and is alerting its current and past clients about this scam. The agency encourages its clients and community members who receive solicitation from any Catholic Charities organizations to call 716-218-1400 and confirm the information with Catholic Charities of Buffalo before taking any actions at all. Our next article, the Planning Board stresses applicant to engage in the neighborhood outreach on proposed Lakeshore Road warehouse buildings project. If you ask the Town of Hamburg Planning Board before any future progress can be made to conduct 6 shop warehouses buildings on 7.46 acres of Lakeshore Road, the applicant has to reach out to the neighbors in the Nelson Avenue area and clearly clarify what the project is and what impact it will have. Around 75% of neighbors in the adjacent neighborhood have made their concerns known to the board, upset with clear cutting of trees, runoff into Rush Creek, the condition of the property, and visibility. Returning to the board for a second time with updates to their sketch plan for the project, Sean Hopkins, an attorney for the applicant, provided new information on the project. They confirmed that the project will be on one parcel, while the applicant, Brandon Santa, will live on another parcel adjacent to the proposed project. There will also be a proposed 30-foot wide access easement to the project site. Building locations have also been adjusted to have no buildings within 100 feet of Rush Creek. The proximity of the buildings to Rush Creek had been a concern previously voiced by a board member. On previous questions about the removal of trees, Hopkins presented the board a letter from the town's building department saying all work completed was in compliance with the code. Josh Rogers, a planning consultant for Wendell, said that there are no active violations on the property. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but I think you need to have a conversation with your neighbors, says Cindy Gronichin, chair of the planning board, about the concerns raised by neighbors this early in the process. This is a big project, and to have that many people and that much correspondence already, you're at gate 1. We still have to go through the public hearing. I think an informed neighbor is a friendly neighbor. Hopkins said, as the project proceeds, they would be more than willing to talk to the residents about the project. We're not saying we can convince people to support the project, but we can make sure that everyone has true and accurate information. Gronichin also believes that the plan needs fewer buildings, feeling that there has to be room for buffering to be positioned. Other board members also stressed additional landscaping and screening will be needed. I don't believe the way this is set up that there can be any trees, greening, or buffering, Gronichin says. I think if there are fewer buildings, that would accommodate things. I feel it's important that we look at all angles, and I feel that that's too much on this piece of property for the kind of property that you have and the stack of correspondences, all negative, that we've already gotten from 3/4 of the neighborhood. Santa said that there will be landscaping placed along Rush Creek and other areas of the parcel. In regards to the building on the plan, Santa said if he doesn't build to the square footage, it's not feasible to develop the current acreage for the parcel. For now, the project has been tabled indefinitely by the board until the applicant presents a full site plan. You have been listening to Around Our Area, a weekly look at community newspapers from around Western New York. Your reader for this hour has been Debbie. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Ampol Eagle. At 4 o'clock, we have the Grand Island Niagara County Tribune Sentinel. And following that, 5 o'clock, we have the Lockport Union Sun and Journal. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,